Hello, my name is Julie Schwalm. I'm with iForgeAhead Software, and I'm here today with Bob Shantz of Spanish Lake Blacksmith Shop. Bob is sponsoring this webinar, and we're going to talk about putting technology to work for you in your hoof care business. And we'll talk about that in general first, and then we'll go into also into an overview of the features of iForgeAhead software. One thing I think that it's important to think about is a question in your mind. Do you consider yourself primarily a farrier or a business owner? The American Farriers Journal has found in studying hoof care businesses that fail in the first few years that more of them fail due to poor management rather than their shoeing skills. So it is important to manage your business in order to be successful. And basically that means primarily capturing and using your business records to help improve your business in different ways. These are critical to your success. You can think of it as your business system is just as important as your shoeing tools for being successful. So that I hope that going forward, when you consider this question, am I a farrier or a business owner, I hope that your answer increasingly will be yes, that I'm both. So when we talk about managing your business, let's think about how you currently do things. For example, how do you manage your appointments? How do you document a horse's specific situation at a point in time and your work on it? And how do you then refer back to that later? How do you get paid? And increasingly important, how do you know if you haven't been paid? Tracking expenses is also part of managing your business, as well as tracking mileage, and occasionally the very fun preparing the taxes. And finally, how do you know if you're actually making money? So these are all things to think about in terms of your business system. Whether you know it or not, you do have a system. Whatever you're doing now is your system. Might include different components such as an invoice book, an appointment book, note cards for your records on horses, a written ledger of income and expenses, could be an electronic calendar as well, and might even include a long-suffering spouse that helps you with some of the administrative side of your business. If your system is working well, it should be benefiting your business and helping your business grow. If your current system is inefficient or has gaps in it, you need to consider what is that costing you. Examples could be costing you in lost revenue, such as if you don't always get paid at the time of service, you need a good way to make sure that you have been paid for past work, and so that you're not losing revenue for uncollected bills. It might be costing you in efficiency, simply knowing what you need on a given visit, managing your schedule so that you're scheduling your visits geographically efficiently, things like that. It could be costing you lost time after hours for personal and family time. And it could also be costing you in terms of how your customers view you. If they don't feel like you're exceptionally organized, that can be a hit to their confidence in you. So one way to go for a more comprehensive and automated approach is business software, and there are many advantages to this. For example, with business software, you'll have consistent records throughout. For example, just things like the spelling of a customer's name is only going to happen once, but everywhere it appears, it will look the same. The same with the address pulling in where you need it. Business software should make it very easy for you to quickly look up any information that you need to find. It should also give you the ability to quickly summarize things, such as what have I been spending in expenses the last 60 days? What money is due to me? It should provide that for you very quickly. Another advantage is that it should make tax preparation much more simple. Again, that relates to the previous point of the quick summaries. So those numbers can be pulled together easily. And they can also be used for analyzing your business on the fly. For example, just every quarter or every few months, taking a look at overall income and expenses and profit and loss, and analyzing things that will help you improve your business. And finally, it will also provide a very professional image, which is very enhancing to your business in the eyes of your client. If you look more professional, that affects everything as far as how they think of you, including how much you can charge. One thing that we've heard along the years of doing this is some people say, I don't get along well with computers. And that has been common. But with our specific software, we've tried to make it as easy as possible, and many have reported after trying it that they can indeed do it. For any system, there will be a learning curve, but it should be relatively easy, and it should certainly save you time over the long run. And at the very beginning, there will be initial data entry, entering your client information and horse information, for example. But it should be worth it in that once that's in there, you are just selecting quickly from the lists you've created, and it should really save you time. Bob, do you have anything you'd like to add or ask at this point?
Well, I've had several things I wanted to let you get through the presentation, but this particular issue, I've just heard it so many times that they don't. A fellow would tell me, I don't even know how to turn one on, and I think, gee, we spend all this time and money to look professional with our shoeing rigs and personal appearance, punctuality, and this is such a critical part of any business. Just being able to keep all of the records accurately in one place, and it's so simple. I can't imagine not learning to use technology.
Right. I agree with you. And today, you know, more and more people everyone's pretty much using a cell phone, which is a mini computer, and a lot of software, including ours, will run on that as well.
You back the program up every time, all time, don't you, in the cloud? So a person
yes.
doesn't have to worry about going home and entering the data and then backing it up.
Right. We take care of all that for you, so it is backed up very frequently, automatically. So going back to data entry, putting the initial data entry in, there are a couple of tips I have for making that as easy as possible. With your tablets and your cell phones, now in a lot of cases you'll have a voice input option next to the keyboard, so you can actually speak into it instead of typing. You could use that for names and addresses, but it's also really helpful if you were going to enter a note on a horse after you visited, and you want to, instead of typing 3 or 4 sentences of what the situation is and what you did, you can just turn on the recorder and it will transcribe your voice input. And another option for when you're getting started is client input. That is a great tip that one of our users gave us a few years ago when when his clients are there, when he's doing the work, he would pull up on our program, he would pull up a brand new, add a new client screen and hand his phone or tablet or laptop to the customer and said, will you mind filling this in while I work on your horse? Of course, that's just the first time to get that client information in there, their name, address, and their phone numbers. And that can be helpful also. So we've been talking a little bit about hardware. If you're looking for a system, you'll want to consider what you want to use it on. Options such as desktop and laptop computers are always options, as well as tablets and smartphones. And when you're thinking about this, what's going to work best for you, you'll want to consider where and when you want to do things, such as where you want to be able to look up information and where you want to be able to capture new information. Another thing you should consider at this stage is if anyone else besides you should have access to your business system. Sometimes that's a partner or spouse. Sometimes it's could be a bookkeeper or an accountant. And sometimes there's no one else and you're the main users. But this is something to consider when you're looking at various systems. As we've alluded to already, the iForgeAhead system will work on all of these platforms, and you can jump from one to the other whenever you need to. So if you're out in the field and just have your phone, that's fine. If you're at home later and want to pull it up on a laptop, that's fine too.
Julie, do you need Wi-Fi if you're using a smartphone at a barn?
You either need Wi-Fi or cell service. So sometimes you might not have Wi-Fi, but your cell service is coming through, and then it would use your data plan for that.
Okay.
Now, knowing that many of our clients do travel quite a bit and are going into different areas, even though cell services coverage is growing incredibly each year, there are always areas where you might not have cell coverage, or the barn or client might not have Wi-Fi. We do have an offline app that allows you to look up things and capture new things without any internet connection in those situations. And then when you get back to where you have an internet connection, you just click one button and it will sync your new information up to the main system. Okay, so general software options, these are things that are not necessarily specific to farriers. Some people using their computer will use word processors to print things such as invoices. It's just a standalone thing to create a document. It doesn't give you summary data or allow you to search very easily. Spreadsheets are also popular, which is basically an electronic ledger with columns and rows, allowing you to capture primarily financial data. You have to be able to plan how to lay those out and how to write formulas in the spreadsheets to get the information that you need. There are always a number of accounting software, and they are great for all financials, such as invoicing, receiving payments, things like that, expenses, but that's all they're good for. They're not going to help you with scheduling or horse records and things like that. And of course, there are a lot of apps, many options, changing all the time. Usually they're focused on one specific area, such as scheduling, which means that they're not integrated. So those can all be part of your system, but they're all kind of separate pieces. In contrast to that, turnkey farrier software should work with everything all in one system. And this diagram demonstrates that. So this is one piece of software, such as iForgeAhead, that has multiple modules: contacts, horses, scheduling, and financing. And all of those feed information from one to the other wherever it's needed to make your business as efficient as possible. So in summary, I'd like to say that, remind you that managing your business in whatever way you do is crucial to your success. And I hope that you'll consider, if you're not doing it already, putting technology to work for you. At this point, we're going to transition, and I'd like to show you a demonstration of the iForgeAhead system, which is a full turnkey integrated software solution.
Julie, before you do that,
This conference will now be recorded.
Julie, I've probably known you at least 20 years, and you know I'm a fan of your program, but you didn't mention the cost, and I think it's phenomenally low. Not that I want you to raise it, but it still charge $20 a month.
Yes, it is a subscription service at $20 a month. We have ongoing monthly costs that we pay to provide the service. So that's why it's not purchase service and purchase software. That's more and more common these days. But we do keep it at $20 a month, trying to make it available to as many people as possible, and especially people who are just getting started in the business to get off on the right foot.
Well,
We feel like it should easily pay for itself.
Oh, I'm sure there are so many benefits. One of the benefits is if you somebody buys a software to run their business and it's from a large company and they need some tech support, I know I've been there. It sometimes takes hours or days to get an answer. You're still available when somebody is, especially when they're first starting with it and they have some learning issues.
Oh,
Can they
yes.
reach you?
Yes, definitely. We provide tech support either by email or by phone, and I always encourage people to contact us. We have a number of video tutorials that demonstrate how to do certain things within the program. But I always tell people, if you're not finding quickly the answers that you're looking for, call us or email us. Don't waste a lot of time. That's what we're here for, is we don't want you to get frustrated. We just want you to be able to have it start helping you as soon as possible. So we take a lot of pride in our customer support. We'll start just with a little navigation. This is what we call the home screen, which is what appears as soon as you log into the program. It has a little dashboard of some upcoming appointments and any outstanding tasks that you've created. The upper menu bar is going to be the same no matter where you are in the program. It's always there and can be used from anywhere to get to any other section of the program. So we're going to jump right in and start with the contacts module. Contacts are going to be primarily a list of your clients, but they can also include your suppliers, your any trainers and veterinarians you work with, other farriers, just anyone you need to keep contact information on can be stored here, and you can classify them under roles, whether they're horse owners or farriers or vets, and sort them. I'm going to give you a little bit of tips here of how things work throughout the program. Whenever we have a list like this with columns and rows, we call it a list or a grid, there's a few ways to find information quickly. For example, you're seeing I've got 22 records in my contacts. That's not very many. When you're using it, you might have 200 or 400. So to find something quickly, you can sort by any of the columns. For example, just by clicking on the column header. Click on city if you want to find something quickly by city, and that alphabetizes all your records by that field. If you click it one more time, it resorts them in reverse alphabetical order. The other quick way to look things up is using this filter bar. This is the row with the blank fields under the column headings. And you can click in any of those and just type the first few characters of what you're looking for, and the list will filter to show just those records. So I just typed a B, so I got all my contacts that start with B. And if I go further, another character will just be the ones that start with BA. So we make it as easy as possible to find things, even though you might have hundreds of records. And this sorting and filtering are things that you can use on all the lists throughout the program. So let's go ahead and dig into a contact record. I just backspaced the BA on the filter so I'd see everybody. And I'm going to resort by name. And we're just going to click on the underlined contact name to get into their details. So in addition to the information that was displayed in those few columns on the grid, there's much more information for each contact. So this is the detailed view for Dole Stables. It will show their full address. They'll have a Map It link, which if you click it will open a Google Maps to their address. You can also add a single picture. We'll talk about all the ways you can use pictures throughout the program as we go. But for contacts, you can have one picture per contact, which a lot of people will use as a photo of the horse owner or their land. Below that, we have phone numbers. You can save as many phone numbers per contact as you need to. And a nice feature that we've added is that you can prioritize them differently for each contact. So for this Dole Stables, we've made the barn phone number, that's the primary one that I'm going to call most frequently. And their other ones are the backups. But for many of the other customers, you might have their mobile phone as priority one. So that's handy.
Julie,
Yes,
the column used for text, if I'd put a check mark in there for their mobile phone, would it?
Yes. That is when we do appointment reminders by text. Yes. That,
okay.
you would want that checked. And you can do it on this screen or when you're setting up the appointment reminders.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll look at that in a little more depth in scheduling. But yeah, that's telling us that that's a good number to text to. Below that, we have a list of the horses that are associated with this contact. Because this is a stable, there's quite a few horses, and they're also showing the various owners and some other basic information about the horses. You'll notice all the horse names are underlined. So from this screen, you could quickly click on a horse name and get to their detail. But I'm going to take you in a different way. And we'll just go ahead and do that now. That pretty much covers the contacts features. So I'm going back to the menu bar, and now we'll go directly into horses. And again, we have the grid. And we can use the same features of sorting by column, heading, or looking up by typing in any of these boxes. So for example, if I only wanted to see the horses at Breezy Acres, I could just type a few column or characters there and they would come up. So this shows the horse name, owner, and stable, and some other additional information as far as when they've been worked most recently, when their last visit was, how many weeks they're in between schedule, and when they're due and when they're scheduled. But there is a lot more information available that you can store on each horse. So to see that, we're going to click on the horse name, which is underlined, and we'll just go into Big Jake. By clicking on his name, I'm now in a detailed view for the horses. And there's three main sections for each horse record. There's this screen, which is basically overview identification information. And there's hoof track and notes and pictures, which we'll get into in a minute. So on this screen, the only thing you have to capture for each horse is a name, and each horse has to have either an owner or a stable or both. Everything else here is optional if you want to track it. And there's even user-defined fields that you can change the headings on for certain things that you want to capture on each horse that we haven't provided a specific label for. At this level, on the individual horse overview, you can have one picture, which is basically used primarily as an identification of the horse. When we get into notes and pictures, that's where you can store as many pictures as you want, close-ups and all that on the work that you're doing and the condition of the horse's hoofs. So we'll start by going into hoof track. And again, we're staying with the same horse. This is Big Jake. And hoof track basically allows you to track specifications such as angles, lengths, shoe material, pads, etc. over time. It also includes some additional user-defined fields. So if you want to track other information, you can change these labels for your use. In this particular example, I only have one record for Big Jake, unfortunately, but if you were tracking it over time and there were multiple ones, each one would have a date, and you would be able to scroll down to go back in time to see how those things have changed over time.
And where do we enter this, like front shoes, where if we have a particular style? Where do we enter?
Okay. Well, let's add one now. So I'll just click the plus symbol as throughout the program is used to add a new record. So it comes up with a new record pop-up window, and it defaults to today's date, but that can be changed. And so shoes, here you were asking about the material. And so there's only a couple in here right now, but throughout the program, wherever we have drop-down lists, you can add a new item without leaving that screen. Do you have something you'd like to add here, Bob?
Yeah. Let's put SX8.
Say it again.
SX8.
SX8.
Shoe size would be 2.
Okay. So now that I've typed that SX8, that will be in my list for all future horses and uses. I'll never have to type that again. It's going to be an option. Okay. Shoe size 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, and you could add whether they're front or hind and pads and.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So that's how you would.
Fields.
I'm sorry?
Or the user-defined fields.
Yeah, the user-defined fields are for specific things that you additionally want to track that we haven't allowed for. Some people will use them for things like in hoof specs, it might be confirmation or
so you could type in something like Shelly hooves?
Yes.
Okay.
And where you do that, I'm going to save it. And just to show how, so now you see it says user field 1 hoof specs. I'm going to jump out of here for a minute to go to settings and settings for horses. And what was that one you suggested again, Bob?
Oh, Shelly hooves?
Shelly?
Yes, just easily broken up.
Okay, good. And then what was another one we said? Maybe supplements. Some people track whether the horse is taking supplements at a certain time. So if I save those, I'm going to leave 3 and 4 unused at this time, but I'll save those. Now we'll jump back over to Big Jake and his hoof track. And now you'll see those labels appear right here.
Wow.
Okay, and that'll be for all horses, all hoof specs. Okay, anything else on the specs before we move into the notes and pictures, Bob?
Looks like you can put in almost anything, all the information that you'd need.
Right, good. Okay, and notes and pictures gives you even more flexibility. So again, we're still on Big Jake, and with notes, you can have an unlimited amount of notes for each horse, and each note can have an unlimited amount of pictures that goes with it. So we generally recommend you treat each note as a visit. So after that visit, if you have things that you want to document, you can write in as much text as you want. This list is showing you the top few rows. And most people don't put a lot, but I do like to mention that each note can have up to 64,000 characters, which is generally about 60 typed pages. So if you really had to put a lot in there, or certainly more than a few paragraphs, it will take that. This will also show whether there are pictures associated with that note. So we'll take a look at this one, for example, just by clicking on pictures. And now we're in that individual single note from December 2nd of 2016. It's got the text section at the top here. And then as we scroll down, it's showing the images.
I think this is probably one of the more important features for especially the initial contact with the horse. I've heard customers say to the horseshoer, well, it never had that problem before, and this gives quite good image of evidence that he did have that problem.
Yes, I agree. And I've had users tell me before similar things, like they take it every time, take a picture every time they're treating a certain situation. And after a while, the owner says, it just doesn't seem like it's getting that much better. And then you can pull it up and say, well, look where it was, the last few times, and you can see the progress. So again, it's very easy this is where we're viewing the images. If you want to add additional images to this note, this is where you come and you just use the standard browse feature to upload your images. And Bob, you were mentioning initial consultation. I have that actually as a template. So we've looked at the pictures. If we jump back to the notes, I'll just show another feature. When you're adding a new note, you can certainly just type, click in here and type whatever you need to type. Or as I was saying earlier, on your phone, hit the microphone button and dictate a little bit. But we also added a template feature where you can set up templates, which is basically a form that you want to fill out in certain situations. So you saw one there called initial consultation. And if I select that, it's going to put this in every time and save me some work. And then I can just come in and add comments in the relevant situations. And you can create as many templates as you need for your specific practice. The scheduling module in iForgeAhead is very powerful. It's a lot more than just where am I supposed to be when, which is what you get with an appointment book. And that's what this looks like initially, but we give you the ability to drill down very easily and get a lot of information that's going to help you be as prepared as possible and manage your schedule as efficiently as possible. So a couple of basic navigation techniques throughout the schedule. There are multiple ways to view the schedule. We're looking at a work week, which is Monday through Friday. You can also do a full week if you want to include the weekends. So that gives you 7 columns. Individual day, one day at a time, even a month view is optional. So we'll just keep it here for now on the work week. To navigate, it will always open up to the current week. And these controls here allow you to move around. If you want to go to a specific date, you can use this drop-down arrow for a calendar and page through what you're looking for, and any date you select, it's going to jump to that whatever week that date occurs in. You can also move forward a week, 1 week at a time, using the forward button, or back with the back button. Wherever you end up in the schedule, if you quickly want to return to the current week, you just click the Today button. That brings us back to where we started. And then up here, we added another control that you'll use quite a bit, which allows you to easily move by a set number of weeks. Right now, this is set to 6. So if I click the forward arrow, with 1 click, I've just moved forward 6 weeks. And of course, you can change that number to anything you want and click back or forward, however far out you want to make the next appointment. So that's a quick way to navigate. Okay, going back to the current week. For the actual appointment bars, you can customize the information that appears in them. In this case, we're showing, and if you can't see it all, you can just click it once and it'll bring up a little menu that shows everything. So it's giving us the the contact name, the amount of money that they currently owe, their city and state, and their first phone number. Again, this can be customized for the type of information you want to have included on your appointment bars. There is more information to these appointments, which we'll get into in just a moment. You'll also notice the different colors. We use the colors as categories of different types of appointments. When you first start with the program, you'll have these two colors or categories, blue meaning a standard appointment and gray meaning a tentative appointment. So it's kind of a placeholder out there, but until it's confirmed, we keep it as gray. You can add as many other categories and colors as you want. For example, I've added one here for personal time. If I go to my next week, I've added green as the color for the category personal time, and I just block out time in my business name, and that's how it shows up there. I've also seen other people use the colors and categories as geographical regions, which will help them schedule geographically for the most efficiency. So it's very customizable. Also, the appointments are very easy to move once they're placed in the system. It's just drag and drop. If you need to move it earlier, up or down is later, move it to another day, and just drop it wherever you need to move it to. You can make it longer or shorter by dragging the top and bottom edges. Okay, so let's get into a little bit more of the detail. Let's make a new appointment for tomorrow. And I'm going to start by highlighting the block of time that I think that appointment should take. Once that's highlighted, I'll click the plus button. And this takes me into the appointment detail. It's already captured the date I selected and the time frame I selected. And if I made a mistake there, I can adjust it here. Let's say I'll make it till 2:30. And then the only other thing I have to do is select the location of where this appointment is going. Here's where we were talking about those types or categories. We have standard, tentative, personal, and you can add as many as you want. We'll just leave this one as standard. And this field is just if you have a specific note for this particular individual appointment. I'm going to save it with the green check mark. And now I'm on the detail for this appointment. And you'll see that it has pulled in their address. It also is giving you the Map It link to Google Maps. If you had typed in the contact information specific directions, they would appear here. It's got their phone numbers and their email address. So this is all the information that's behind each appointment. Additionally, this is an optional feature, but it's very helpful, called Horses Scheduled. And what it allows you to do is list the specific horses that you're going to do during that appointment. And when we do that, you'll see why it gives you additional information. Clicking the drop-down arrow to do that, I get the horses that are associated with this client. And I can either select them all with the checkbox at the top, or I can click them individually for which ones are going to be worked at this appointment. I'll just go ahead and select them all and then add selected horses. And now this grid below is filled out, one row for each horse name. And what you'll see is additional information pulling in. So for Harley, for example, we had a note that we made last month, and this is the note, and it's automatically coming into this future appointment, which normally it's very helpful because you wouldn't say, oh, I wonder if I made a note last month. This is pulling it in right here where you need it. Also, if last visit would be populated with any invoice information from the last invoice these horses were on. Again, this is some demo data, so I don't have that right now, but it would show you the date of the last visit and what specific products and services you charged for, and even what you charged. So that can be really helpful in planning for your upcoming appointments. Once you've created an appointment, before we get out of this, we have a feature that allows you to repeat the appointment, which there's tutorials on how to do all these options, but I'm just going to show that you can set it up, for example, for every 6 weeks or every 5 weeks, and have it populate that schedule, those appointments out in the future. I've had people tell me, well, I don't want to do that because even though I'm going to work the horses every 5 weeks, it's not necessarily always going to be Thursday at 11 a.m. of that week, which is understandable. And what I advise people to do in that case is to go ahead and do the replicating and make them tentative. And then they're out there as a placeholder so you don't lose track of them. And then as that week's approaching, you're going to be looking at your schedule and kind of refining it at that point. So that's one way that you can use that feature. Okay, I'm going to jump back over to the schedule view. And now you'll see we have our new appointment here that we just added. The other main feature that is a really big benefit in the scheduling, and we alluded to it earlier with the text message, is we do have an automatic appointment reminder system that you can turn on. You'll basically set it up one time, answer a few questions such as how many days in advance do you want your customers to receive their reminder? What should the reminder say? We give you some standard text, but you can edit that if you want. And the text messages can be sent by email or by text, and that can vary for each customer. So that's a very popular feature. Mentioning tutorials, I forgot to show you that on every screen, we have this action panel in the left. And the contents of this will vary based on what screen you are in, and it will have different things that are related that you might want to jump to, or actions you want to perform on the screen you're working with. At the bottom of every action panel is a section titled Show Me How To, and these will open the video tutorials related to this screen. So if you were coming into the schedule for the first time and wanted to see how to add an appointment, you could click that and it will open a video in another window. And those are throughout the program. Okay, any comments or questions at this point, Bob, on the schedule?
No, it just seems extremely easy.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we're going to jump into the financial side of the software now. You can tell that all the pieces talk together because even though we're in scheduling right now, the financial side is telling us that the customers owe us money from the past. So they all work together. We'll start in Money Matters. We're going to start talking about invoices, which you're going to want to create for each visit. And this will take you to a list of recent invoices. And before you can create an invoice at one time, you have to create what's called your products and services list. So I'm going to jump into that for just a second. And that's under settings. And again, this is a one-time thing. And you can think of the products and services list like your price list. So when you start with the free trial of the program, this list will be blank and you will create your own items with your own descriptions, whether each thing is classified as a product or a service, and that's for taxation purposes. Your billing rate is what your standard charge is going to be for that item. Now, I will tell you, you are able to adjust those prices in an individual invoice. I'll show you that in a minute, but this would be what your standard or most common charge is for each item. Basically, once you set this up once, you will only come back here rarely, and that would be primarily to raise your prices or make changes in that way. So once that's done, Then you can create your invoices. And we try to make this as easy as possible and as time saving as possible. So there's a few ways to do it. I'm going to show you one that's already done here by clicking on the invoice number, and then we'll create one. So this is the invoice screen. Now keep in mind, this is just the screen that we use to capture the information. This is not the view that the client is going to get. I'll show you that in a minute. So this is just the create the invoice view. Okay, so this is one invoice for Mary Rogers with 2 charges for a horse called Money Pit. There's no limit to the number of line items that can be on an invoice. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new one. And just to show you a couple of the easy options, you'll start by selecting the client. The invoice will default to today's date, but if you need to, you can change the date. I'll backdate it a couple days. The note is specific for this invoice. This is just a default that comes into every invoice, but right here you can customize it or add to it if you had special instructions for the client at this particular time. And then you'll just save it with the with the check mark. Now we're in our build screen, and the header information we've selected is here. It's pulling in the tax rates for this customer. And I do want to mention that if you do have to deal with sales tax at all, iForgeAhead is has a very robust sales tax module. You can have different rates for different clients, which a lot of programs don't allow. So again, if you need that, there are tutorials on how to set that up. So now we're ready to add the charges to the invoice. And you can do that. We'll start with this method where we're just going to add them one at a time with the plus. We get a pop-up. The service date is going to be the same as the invoice date originally, but you can change it. The service date is actually tied to the horse record, and meaning when he was actually worked. Then we'll select, we've got a list here of the horses that go with this contact. Again, you're able to add a new one right here without leaving the screen if you showed up and they had a new horse. So you could do it right here. I'm just going to select one we have originally. And then what you're seeing here is that price list we talked about. It's giving you the description and the bill rate of all your products and services. And just like before, you can sort it by clicking on the description. You can also filter it by typing couple of letters in the filter bar. So let's say I'm just going to do simple trim. I select that, and the list goes away, and it's showing me the specifics. Trim is $42. I did one of them. I can change the quantity here. And the adjustment, this is where I was saying you can change your standard price. So for some reason in this case you wanted to charge them a little bit more or a little bit less, you can do that. Add a 5 to charge them $5 more, and it's $47. Add a -5, for example, to take the price down. And by the way, those adjustments will not show on the printed invoice that goes to the customer. So once you're done here, you'll save, and that line is now in the invoice. And you can keep adding in that way additional charges for as many, more for Harley, that specific horse, or you can change horses. Now, another feature that a lot of people find very efficient, I'm going to take this line out before I demonstrate that. So now we have no charges, is to copy a previous invoice. A lot of you will have a lot of customers where every time you go, it's basically the same services and the same charges. So this is a great feature. So once you get here where you've selected the client, you click copy prior invoice, and it will bring up their recent invoices with their most recent on top. And it will show you what the total was and which horses were on that invoice. So you can select the one that you're looking for. I'll just select the last one and click copy. And now it will add all those charges that were on that previous invoice, but it will use today's service date, or this invoice's service date. And from here, if this is actually correct, you can mark it final and you're done. Or if you need to make any adjustments, you can take a line out, you can adjust the column, the charge, or add another charge if you need to, but it's still a great time saver. And once you're done, you're going to mark it final. You can still edit a finalized invoice, but it just takes it out of work in process and allows you to print it or email it, which is what we're going to show you now. So once you've done this invoice, we can go to the action panel and click print and email invoice. And this will take you to a preview of what the customer will see for their invoice. So this is a print preview. At the top of the document is your letterhead for your business, and then the customer information, invoice, and then it will start to go into the charges, the line items for the horse. There's a lot of other sections in here, such as next appointment, subtotal by horse, account status. You have options on what all you want to include here, and that's all over here in the action panel. So I'm going to take out show account status. And remember, I told you if we adjusted the price, it wouldn't show. Well, in this case, it is showing. So I need to turn on that feature, hide price and adjustment. And then I'll save that, and it will reformat. And so now I don't have the price and adjustment. I just have the end total. And I took out that other section down here, which was called account status. You'll be able to play with these, and every time you get out of this screen, it remembers which ones you had selected before. So the next time I come back here, it's going to have these 3 checked. So you don't have to go through and make those decisions every time. From here, it's very easy to print the invoice with the printer icon if you want to send it to your printer, or you can email it, which is becoming increasingly popular and very efficient. If you click that, you're still going to have your preview down here below, but up above you have a little email form, and we've tried to fill out as much of the information as we can. This will have your personal or your business email address. This is the customer's email address that it's pulling from their contact record. There's a default subject line and a default message. So if you don't need to change any of this, you're ready to send. If you wanted to put a personalized note in here to the customer, you can edit it before you click send. Basically then, the customer will get this subject line, this message, and then the invoice itself is an attachment as a PDF file that they can open. Okay, that covers our overview of invoices. Also note that in Money Matters, you'll also enter payments that you receive from your clients to make sure that everything's paid up. We won't necessarily demonstrate that, but you'll also be able to track your expenses. So this is a list of recent purchases. Using the filter list on the left, I'll expand it a little bit by checking all the dates. So I have more of the details here. I can go into any of these and look at the details. So this is showing that on Spanish Lake, we bought $350 worth of supplies and paid $25 in sales tax. This may have multiple lines. You could have another category for tools, for example. You can have as many categories as you want, and these will be helpful in your preparing your taxes at the end of the year. If I go back into the lookups for the expenses, we've also provided a copy feature similar to copy prior invoice. You can copy any of these older expenses, which is going to save you a lot of time, especially with regular bills like your insurance, your cell phone bill. Even if the amounts change slightly, it's really fast to just copy a purchase and then make the adjustments you need and save it. So now I'd like to wrap up by showing you a few of the popular reports. All this information that we've been looking at in detail can be aggregated and pulled into different reports to help you with your business. So under the Reports tab, I've got two of the most popular reports first. And by popular, I mean they're used very frequently by each user. And then there's a whole lot more that we'll look at this list in a minute. But basically, the aging report is a financial report that you can click on at any time to quickly see who owes you money and how long they've owed it. It will go in 30-day increments. In my demo data, I just have these columns. So these are current within the last month, and these are all over 90 days. Using this report frequently will definitely help improve the cash flow of your business, meaning you're getting paid faster. This report can be viewed on the screen, or it can also be sent to the printer. It can also be emailed. The other real popular or regular use report is Horses Due. And when you click that, it first brings you to a dialog box that allows you to change some of the settings for the report. I'm going to leave them. You can run it just for specific customers, but I'm going to leave it for demonstration purposes, showing all customers. And there's some other tweaking you can do over here. I'll just leave the default settings and click Create Report. And when you see the preview, this is a report. Again, you might want to print it. You might just want to look at it on the screen. It's showing each customer alphabetically. And within each customer, it's showing the horses. And for each horse, it's showing when they were worked last, what their current schedule is, how many weeks in between, when they're calculated to be due, and when their next appointment is actually scheduled. So without reading all this detail, you can quickly, what a lot of people will do is bring this up and quickly scan the second column, next. Okay, so I've got dates there. That means those horses are scheduled. Oh, these haven't been scheduled and they're due right about now. So this will help you to glance at this every week or so to make sure that your clients aren't falling through the cracks and everybody's getting taken care of in time. And the final group of reports I'd like to show you is the financial reports. So by going to all reports, you can see there's quite a few of them here, and I'm not going to demonstrate each one, but I did want to show you the business suite. This is a suite of about 10 or 12 different reports that you can run at any time for any time period. You'll most frequently use this for tax purposes and for analyzing your business. So they all kind of work the same. I'll just select one. We'll do sales by client. Okay, and I'm going to go include all dates just because I don't have a whole lot of records in here, but you can run it for any time frame. And click Create Report. And then you have all your clients that have been invoiced in alphabetical order. In the gray bar, it shows the total, and then it breaks it down by what specifically they've been invoiced for and how many, what the quantity is, and the dollar value. So that's an example of a financial report. If you want, you can take the detail out of any of these. Change options takes you back to this. And this checkbox, exclude detail, will just run the same report without the detail. And it just removes those subsettings of what specifically they were paying for. So now you just have a clean list of each of your clients and the total amount you billed them over whatever time frame you want. Okay, so I really appreciate your interest and consideration of iForgeAhead. As we wrap up, I'd like to say that we do have a 30-day free trial of the software, which is basically the first month is free because you'll have full access to all the features of the program, and there are no limitations during the free trial. Bob, did you have anything else you wanted to add or ask?
If somebody uses the 30-day free trial and they take the time to enter their contacts and stables and all the information, and then they decide that they want to subscribe, will it maintain all of the information they put in?
Oh, absolutely. Great question. Yes, the trial period is, like I said, you can just kind of consider it your first month without paying. All that data will be there. There is a way to get rid of it if you're just putting in practice things, which a few people will do, but most people just start it with their regular data. So you just move forward after you subscribe and everything will still be there.
So the first month is you can practice and get familiar with it, and by the time you subscribe, you're familiar with it.
Yes, hopefully. Yeah, and during the trial period, a couple of things I'll point out that we do a little differently. We do not collect your payment information at the time you start the trial, which means that if you don't want to use it, if you don't want to subscribe, you don't have to do anything. If you do want to continue beyond the trial, then is when you'll enter your payment information. Okay, so it's not a burden on you to start getting charged because you forgot to say, no, I don't want to continue. The second thing is we'll email you about once a week during the trial with some tips and some suggested videos to kind of break up an orientation to the software.
And I just noticed the left side of the screen announcements. It looks like every time you make a change or do something, you post it there and everybody can access it.
Yes, we do that. We have a forum which lists all of them, but on this page you'll see the most recent ones. And then we also, if I scroll down here a little bit, we also include our Facebook feed on the home page. And Facebook is a way that we easily communicate with our customers and people who are interested. So every change that we make will get posted on Facebook also.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. For more information, you can either go to iForgeAhead.com, which will be our main page, or we have another page called farriersoftware.com that I wanted to show you here. And that's real easy to remember, farriersoftware.com, only one S in between the words. And from here, you can kind of get a recap of what we've covered in this demo and kind of the benefits and stuff. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom is our contact information. Here's our phone number. You can also email us directly here. And if you're ready to get started with your free trial, you can click the free trial button. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Julie, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Bob.